Episode 4. Relax, baby girl, he ordered. My body complied right away. His 2 fingers then started doing this scissor movement, parting my core slightly each time. All the while, his thumb was still working on my now swollen clit. What kind of magic is this? I couldn't help but whimper and moan as my nails dug deeper into his shoulders. You haven't had a good fuck in a while, huh? He asked, and I chose not to answer. Things were going so well, and I didn't want to ruin things by saying I was a virgin. I had never felt anything like this before, and I never wanted it to stop. The clenching in my stomach was getting more and more intense with each of his strokes. He knew it too, and he started moving his fingers with more speed this time. And just when I thought this couldn't get any better, something exploded in me, and my body convulsed in shock. I let out a breathless scream as my core clenched around his fingers, and I came unraveling all over his hand. All the tension that was built up in me had evaporated into thin air. My vision turned black, and I felt nothing but warm, tranquil bliss. "Fuck," he hissed as he pulled out. "You're so fucking beautiful." I was still reeling from the high that I felt moments before. I didn't even notice that both his hands were now cupping my ass, his nails digging into my skin. And then I heard the sound of fabric ripping, and I felt cold air blew against my butt cheeks. He had ripped my underwear open, and the broken piece of fabric fell graciously on the ground. I was completely exposed to him. The cold air stung my bare skin, and I shivered. His one hand then reached for his back pocket, revealing a shiny gold packet. "Open it," he commanded. I took the foil packet from him and ripped it open slowly. His free hand now reached for his belt and unbuckled them. It was hard to do since I was still wrapped around him, so I uncrossed my legs and stood on my feet. I felt wobbly as soon as my feet touched the ground, like my knees were too weak to stand on its own. Thankfully, I had the wall behind me to lean against. Once I finished opening up the gold packet, I looked down and I saw his large erection had sprung out. Holy shit. Granted, it was dark and I couldn't see it very clearly, but it was big. I could see that much. He took the condom from my hand and rolled it down his erect manhood. I gulped at the sight of him. Suddenly, I felt so scared. He noticed it too, because he then turned to me and said, "It's gonna be good, I promise." He closed the distance between us again, and I didn't say a word. I just stood flushed against the wall, thinking somehow that the stupid wall would protect me. Smiling that gorgeous smile, he then grabbed my left thigh and lifted it high and open. I was completely exposed to him once again. He linked my thigh around his waist as his lips went back to attacking my neck. I gasped appreciatively, and my hands reached for his luscious dark hair, running my fingers wildly through them. "Do you want it?" His raspy voice spoke, and I felt his hard length on me, grazing against my wet, bare area. I wanted to feel that feeling again. I wanted to feel full like when his fingers were inside me. So I arched my back and flushed myself to him, shamelessly. "Answer me," he demanded. He was taking his sweet time, purposefully teasing and torturing me. I was a squirming mess as I kept trying to reach for him. He positioned himself so he would let his tip enter me, but only a little bit, before pulling away. I was now writhing in agony. "Please," I begged. He didn't say anything and he just smirked. I was getting too impatient. I started thrusting myself forward to meet him. I was so wet, I was practically dripping. "Stop," he growled suddenly, and I stopped moving. "Please, I want it now," I pleaded again. "You're not there yet. It's gonna hurt you." What was that supposed to mean? "I don't care, just do it." He stared at me with his dark, mesmerizing eyes. For a while, he didn't say anything. He just stood there, thinking. What could he be possibly thinking about right now? "Just fuck me," I said again, causing him to blink in shock. But as soon as the word left my mouth, his lips enveloped me once again. I kissed him back hard and hungrily. His nails dug deep into my skin, and I was practically pulling at his hair. Then, without warning, he thrust himself into me all at once. It was the most painful thing my body had ever endured. "Ah!" I let out a scream, but he caught it with his kiss. He stopped for a moment to let my body take in his full size. Then he pulled out slowly and slammed himself inside me again. He did it several more times, until there was no sound coming out of my screams. It was pain and pleasure, all mixed into one. I couldn't have one without the order. I didn't feel as tense as before, and I was getting used to the pain. He then picked up his pace and started thrusting deeper and harder. I was sandwiched between the wall and his rock, hard body. His thrusts caused my body to slip up against the wall, and my one foot that was on the ground was practically floating. Baby girl, you feel so fucking good. Our eyes were locked into each other's as his dark gaze bored deeply into mine. This was getting too much. I felt something building up inside of me, demanding a release. He responded by moving in and out of me vigorously. The sound of his body smacking against mine filled the air. His breaths were heavy and coarse. I couldn't hold it together anymore. I trashed my head back and my core clenched around him. Hard. Shit, he growled. I came excessively. I felt the warm liquid was oozing out of me, and that didn't faze him. It only made his penis pulse harder. He continued pounding himself into me, so fast and so forceful. Fuck, he said through gritted teeth. All the while, his hands curled into my ass cheeks almost violently, causing me to squirm. But also, it lit a fire inside of me. I felt it again, the buildup racing through my veins. I pushed my legs tighter around his waist, signaling how much I wanted the release he could give me. He groaned lowly in response, but I could tell he liked it, because if he was being rough before, he was almost barbaric now. His thrusts were aggressive and brutal. My soft walls tightened around his thickness responsively. My body was under so much pain and pleasure, I had to close my eyes because it was just too much. Ah. I was moaning unintelligible words as his lips attacked my neck, sucking harshly on that sweet spot. And with that, we both came almost at the same time. My wet core clenched so hard around him, it made his thick cock pulsed in response. He slammed his whole length into me one last time as he come. Full story is available on shelfofnovels.com. Click the link in the comment section to get it free.